Hi everybody. This vehicle is a 2011 Ford Fiesta, and today I'm replacing the rear shocks. So if you look up here on the left rear shock, you see this thing is just covered in oil and quite rusty. So this shock is blown out. I'll have to replace that one. On the passenger side, it doesn't look as bad. Looks like it may have leaked a long time ago, and now it's just covered in some dry dirt and grime. So I'll also be replacing that one. And for today's parts, I'm using these replacement shocks that I got from AutoZone. They were about $42 a piece. Here's the part number. So to replace these shocks, it's actually kind of simple. You got one bolt down below, and then up top, you can kind of see up in there, there's two bolts that hold it up into the body. Book time for replacing both shocks is 1 hour, so let's get started. So the bolt head on this side is 15 millimeter, and on this side there's a nut that takes an 18. Now, if you look at the way this bolt's coming out, this frame is actually pushing down as the shock is going up. And that's basically because this spring is actually forcing everything down. So I'm gonna have to relieve the spring pressure off of this bolt and off of the shock, not only to get it removed properly, but more important, when I go to put it back in. So normally you would put a metal stand under here, but I'm gonna use one made out of wood. Camera's gonna get hit. Right there. So just enough to relieve the pressure on that bolt. And it comes right out. Okay, cool. So now let's go work on the top. All right, now let's look up inside where this is mounted into the body, and you see up in there, there's like one bolt head on this side, and there's another bolt head on the other side. So on this side, it's a 10 millimeter bolt. Here's what the bolt looks like up top. And of course, there's one more on the other side, which I'm going to get with a longer extension. And there's that one. Now to get this out, that the top is unbolted, the bottom is unbolted, so just kind of get that out of there, and then that drops down to the top. So there we go. Old oily shock. Man, that thing's really wet. All right, so now I have to transfer this assembly here, which is the mounting block and this bumper and this dust cap. I have to transfer this over to the new shock, which of course does not come with those parts. So to do that, I have to remove this 10 millimeter nut, while at the same time holding the center shaft still. Now the center shaft just has 2 flats on it. So I'm going to hold that with an adjustable wrench and then get a 10mm speed wrench on the nut to get that off. So to make it a little easier, just throw it in a vise. Like so. And then take this off. If I try and turn it without holding the shaft, then the whole thing just spins. So get that on there like that. There we go. And once it's really loose, you can just take it off by hand. So there's what that nut looks like. It's actually a really thin walled nut, and it's a lock nut too. It's been pressed in on 2 sides. It's pretty cool. All right. So let's get this off. So here's what this looks like. It's really hard to see down in there. So it's got like the bottom part of that jounce bumper there, the bottom part of that yellow part, and then of course the aluminum mounting block. So yeah. Now you can get a new shock that already has this installed. You can get them from Ford Motorcraft Parts, but this shock cost me $42 at AutoZone, and the complete assembly that comes with this is like $75 from Ford. So for the extra couple minutes it takes to swap this over, I think this was the better way to go. All right, cool. So that's it with this. Set that aside. And let's get working on the new one. So I'm gonna put this in the vise. Something like that. Just gently hold it in place. Cut that strap off. And there she goes. Up, up and away. Okay. Let's pop off. Is that actually threaded on there? A little bit. Yeah, look at that. There's actually a nut in there. I wonder if that nut is supposed to... yeah, it sure is. That's supposed to come out. So they give you a new lock nut for it. I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with this lock nut. Well, you know what? I'm going to use the Ford lock nut. So let's take this, put this over the shaft. You know what? I need a little bit more room down here. There we go. Okay, so that's bottomed out. And I'm going to reuse this Ford nut. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that should be good. All right, cool. So here we have it. New and improved, right? Now, not that I think I really need it, but just a little bit of CYA. I'm gonna put just a bit of anti-seize on there. I don't know how long these are gonna be on here for, but it would really stink if these threads rust up. So a little bit ought to help. All right, cool. So that's basically it. This shock is ready to get installed. So let's put it back in the car. So let's take a look up in here and see what it looks like without the shock installed. You can see there's basically 2 holes where the bolts go, and then one hole where the center shaft of the shock goes up into the trunk. So when I put this in there, I just have to line it up with that center shaft going through the hole, and then that'll help me line up the bolt holes. So putting this in is just the reverse of before. Just kind of set that up into place, and then line it up with the hole in the body so it goes up all the way, and then let's kind of push that into its position right there. Now, of course, this new shock is going to be a little bit different length than the old one. So you can see here that the shock is extended a little bit more than the old one was. So not a big deal. I'm just going to raise the car up a little bit, which will make this control arm drop slightly, and then the holes will line up. But now that I got this in place, I can get my 2 bolts and anchor this into place. All right, so I'm going to start with this front side because it's a little bit easier for me to see up in there. That looks pretty good. Okay, just had to rotate it a little bit to get it lined up. And then get that bolt up in there. There we go. Okay, that's good to start. I'll get the other one started. Now for tightening these, I'm going to use a ratchet wrench and do it by hand because I don't want the gun to over torque these bolts. Wow, it's really dark up in there. Okay, there we go. All right, cool. So the torque on these bolts is only 18 foot-pounds. So you could get a torque wrench out and tighten them with that, or just snug them up. Make sure that you don't tighten them too much, because 18 foot-pounds is not a whole lot. All right, cool. Now to put in this lower bolt, like I said, I'm going to have to lift the car up a little bit so that I can line up these 2 holes. So, it looks like I might have gone a little too far there, but let me just drop it down a tiny bit. Something like that. And it pushes right through. All right, cool. So just buzz that in. And now the bolt is run in, so I can remove this supporting contraption and torque the bolt to 85 foot-pounds. Let's torque this up, 85 foot-pounds. All right, cool. So there you have it. Replacing the left rear shock on a 2011 Ford Fiesta. Pretty cool. It's actually a really easy job that you could do at home. The only difference being that you might need to use a floor jack to lift up on the lower control arm to get the shock lined up. But this is an easy job you could do at home with simple hand tools. So pretty cool. Well, if you have any questions or any comments, post them below. And thanks for watching. And if you like my videos, please subscribe.